Greetings to everyone who has joined us today. The Sankrityayan Kosambi Study Circle has organized an online lecture series with the aim of drawing attention to the multiple problems that have been unveiled in the wake of the COVID 19 pandemic. We are delighted to have K. Hemalata with us, who is going to speak on the topic Challenges in Front of the Indian Working Class, Dilution of Labour Laws, and the Migrant Workers Crisis. K. Hemalata is the president of the Center for Indian Trade Unions, CITU. She is the first woman to be a national level leader in the history of the trade union movement in India. She is also a central committee member of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, and has been a key figure in the trade union movement, in particular as the General Secretary of the All India Federation of Anganwadi Workers and Helpers. Since her initiation into C2 in 1980, she has been relentlessly working for the rights of workers and mobilizing them with the aim of strengthening their voices, which, in spite of laws being in place, often go unheard. This pandemic and the ensuing lockdown exacerbated the plight of workers, with the suspension of labor laws making them even more vulnerable. In the past few months, we have clearly seen how they have unjustly endured the ramifications of the institutional failures. She has played a prominent role in taking these concerns to a wider public. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening. I thank the Sankrityayan Kosambi Study Circle for giving me an opportunity to talk on the challenges in the before the Indian working class and the dilution of labor laws and the issues of the migrant workers. We have all seen, particularly in the initial stages of the lockdown, how thousands and thousands of workers, migrant workers, they were marching on the roads with small children on their backs and women following them with their baggages, whatever all they had, carrying them on their shoulders, on their heads, hundreds and thousands of kilometers. Why did the situation arise? Was it necessary? That is the question. The lockdown was announced with just 4 hours of notice to the people of the country. And actually, the lockdown is meant to buy time. It is not a cure of the disease, but to buy time to develop the infrastructure to face the disease, like testing, provision of beds in the hospitals, the isolation wards, the quarantine facilities, the personal equipment, protection equipment, all these things. But that was not done. And instead, the government, of course, has issued an order, a circular, that during the lockdown period, no worker should be retrenched. The workers should be paid their wages. The workers who are on leave and are not able to come back to their work should be treated as being on duty, and the house owners should not vacate them from their houses. But none of these were followed. Not only in the unorganized sector, the small industries, the small medium enterprises, but even in the multinationals and big enterprises, the workers were not paid their wages. Only the April in wages were paid in many, but even the wages of the month of April, where they had worked up to 24th, were not paid in many cases. And after that, the house owners have vacated them because they don't have the money. We know the migrant workers, they are workers only who can survive if they have the earning. If they work, they get their wages. If they get their wages, then they can survive, they can meet their daily requirements. Once the job is gone, thousands and thousands, lakhs in fact, have been retrenched from their services suddenly without any notice. They have given asked to go. So they didn't have the income, they didn't have the money, and they were not able to survive. They waited for some time for the government to implement its orders, but when nothing was done, they were compelled to go back to their villages because it is where they can be with their families and whatever little source of livelihood. And because there were no transport facilities, despite repeated requests, appeals by the trade union movement, by the people, by the democratic society, the government did not respond. The government did not provide any transport facilities for them, so they had to walk back. So why the migrant question, the issues of the migrant workers came to spotlight at that period. But it doesn't mean that these migrant workers had no problem earlier. Even earlier, they were not paid minimum wages. We are all very worried. We were all very worried. People were worried. The news came in the media. We saw the pictures of migrant workers walking. But the thing is that it is not that just during the lockdown period, their worries have started. Even before that, they were not having any job security. Most of the workers, they were not getting the minimum wages. Most of them got only 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 per month, and they did not have any social security benefits, whether pension or EPF or ESI, etc. For many of them, these provisions were applicable in theory, but they were not being implemented. And because of, even in the organized sector, they're all not unorganized workers. Of course, there are unorganized workers like small vendors or those who are working in small institutions like that. But many of them are working in the organized sector, but they were employed as contract workers or trainees or apprentices, etc. Even we have seen in major industrial hubs, whether it is in Mumbai, whether it is in Surat, whether it is in the NCR region, even there also they were not paid regular minimum wages. So that was the situation. And these issues were raised by the trade union movement many times. It is not that the first time. The issue of minimum wages was being raised by the entire trade union movement since many years, many years, at least from 2009. All the central trade unions have come together. All the central trade unions which are there as recognized central trade unions in our country, INTUC, BMS, in addition to CITU, AITUC and others, they have come together and they have raised the issue of minimum wages. They have raised the issue of job security. They have raised the issue of social security. They have raised the issue of all these workers, the implementation of labor laws, effective implementation of the labor laws for all these workers, and they have opposed the amendments to the existing labor laws. But the government did not agree to any of these demands. They were going ahead with that. And the crisis which we find today we say that the toiling people of our country, the working people of our country, whether they are working in industry, whether they are working in mines, whether they are working in agriculture, whether they are working in services, all the working people in our country are facing very big challenges, very big problems. These issues, they are not related to directly to COVID. The crisis was there before the pandemic, before the lockdown. The global crisis was there. In our country also, there was economic crisis, there were economic slowdown. We have seen how Maruti was cutting down production and how they were retrenching workers. There were reports that around 10 lakh workers will be retrenched in the entire automobile industry. And we have read that Parle, which was selling 5 rupee biscuit packets, particularly in the villages, they were not able to sell because the people were not buying even 5 rupee biscuit packets. So they said that they will be reducing or retrenching around 10,000 workers in Parle. So these crises, the retrenchments, unemployment, and we have also seen reports that unemployment rate was 45-year high. That was before the corona pandemic. So the crises were there, unemployment was there, everything was there, but all these things got further aggravated because of the lockdown situation. And this lockdown, as I told you, this was supposed to prevent the spread of the disease, contain the disease by taking all these necessary preventive measures. But without any notice, the government has imposed the lockdown without notice to the people. And instead of doing that, what they have done during this period? What they have done during this period is they have increased the attacks on the workers' people. The so many measures that are being taken during this period particularly, of course, they are not new. They have not started these measures, but they are pursuing these measures more aggressively. The attacks on the workers, on the rights of the workers, on the basic labor and workplace rights of the workers, on the basic democratic rights of the people, on the constitution, on the constitutional rights of our people. So this type of attacks are increasing, have been increased by the government during this period. So this we need to understand. According to CITU, what we understand, and the general trade union movement also, there is a general consensus that this government is utilizing the lockdown period to advance its neoliberal policies, to further aggressively pursue these neoliberal policies. So when we talk about the challenges before the Indian working class and the toiling people, about the problems of the migrant workers, about the changes in the labor laws, we have to understand that the entire thing is part of the project of neoliberalism. And this neoliberalism, many of you might be knowing that this phase of neoliberalism, it's a part of the capitalist system, and this was brought out as a solution to the crisis which started in the early 1970s at the global level. According to the directives of the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, etc. So that neoliberalism today, after implementation in our country, it started late in 1991 officially, when the Congress government was in power with P.V. Narasimha Rao as the Prime Minister and Manmohan Singh as the Finance Minister. At that time, it was officially started, and then before in the world, it was in existence, particularly it was being implemented in Europe, in the USA, in Latin America, etc. And after the experience of all these years, now neoliberalism is totally discredited. And what are the parts of neoliberalism? Attack on the labor laws is also an integral part of neoliberalism. So this was to protect the profits in the face of the crisis, to protect the profits. The ruling classes brought about these policies to protect the profits by increasing the attacks on the working class. So after the 2008 crisis, this again, 2008 we have seen the global financial crisis, which persisted even today. We find that it is still continuing, there is no respite. And as austerity measures were implemented in European countries and many other countries, so this also, the attacks on the workers, they have also increased. So the capitalists want to protect their profits or increase their profits, or come over the stagnating rate of profits by increasing the attacks on the exploitation on the workers and the toiling people, and by grabbing the public wealth, natural resources, which are the public property, people's property, what we call expropriation, and through that means they want to increase their wealth and protect their profits. This is all what we are seeing today. So when we talk about the labor law amendments, the changes in the labor laws, and the attacks on the rights of the migrant workers, we have to understand this is a part of the entire policy of this, or entire project of neoliberalism, which is aimed at protecting the profits of the capitalists and the corporates. So that is what we see today, that the attacks today, even the migrant workers, when we are talking about the migrant workers, the government now wants to amalgamate the Interstate Migrant Workers Act. There is an act, Interstate Migrant Workers Act, which protects the rights of the migrant workers about their wages, about their working conditions, about their transportation, etc. It gives them some rights. But now the government wants to amalgamate that into the code. As you all might be knowing, that the government now wants, the BJP government wants to amalgamate the 44 central labor laws into 4 labor codes. That process was started during the first regime, the first term of the BJP government led by Prime Minister Modi in 2014. And during that period, the codes were formed. And what are these codes meant for? What are these changes in the labor laws meant for? The working class or the trade unions, they also are not very happy with the existing labor laws. They also want that these should be improved in favor of the workers. These should be amended. But what the government is doing today is entirely opposite. It is amending the labor laws to remove whatever protection, whatever welfare benefits that the workers are enjoying today. And we have to remember that these labor laws or these protect rights, they have not been given to the workers or the toiling people just like that as a grant or as a merciful measure, but they were hard-won rights of the workers, the working class. They fought for their rights for every inch, and only after many sacrifices, many struggles, they today. Even that is not enough, of course, but whatever has been achieved through struggles, and whatever has been there on paper is not being implemented. Today, what we find in our country, according to the government, 93% of the workers are in the informal sector, on the unorganized sector, where the labor laws like the Industrial Disputes Act or the Trade Union Act or the EFESI Act, they are not applicable. So they don't have any rights. Only the 7% of the workers are having the rights, theoretically, on the paper. But even they are not being implemented in most of these places. The labor departments have been weakened. They don't have adequate staff. They have been given directions that you cannot inspect the workplaces. You cannot take any action without the permission of the administration, higher authorities, the district collector, etc. So the labor inspection machinery has been weakened highly. So it is not even implemented. And on the other hand, what the government is doing is that contractualization is increasing. Large number of contract workers in today, not only in the private sector, but even in the public sector also, workers or the regular workers. Work is being outsourced. So the employer-employee relationship, there is a big change in the employer-employee relationship. In most of the places, most of the workplaces, the workers do not know who the employee is. There is no direct link between the principal employer and the worker. There is a different levels of middlemen, whether it contractors or some subcontractors like that, and the work is being outsourced. And even in the factory, different names are given. Apprentices are being employed. The government has changed the Apprenticeship Act so that larger number of apprentices can be employed in the factories. And the apprentices, they are paid only some scholarship like thing, some this thing, but not wages. It is very, very less compared to the wages. It is less than half or 1/3 of the wages. They don't have any social security benefits. They are only paid some stipend. So similarly, they are trainees, part-time trainees, like that in different names they are employed, and they are not getting any same benefits or wages as the permanent employees. So that way, this is one of the methods how the employers want to dilute the labor laws, and the government is helping. And now, what the government is arguing, it has been arguing whenever the question of labor law reforms come, whenever the question of amendments to the labor laws comes, what they say is that by today in our country, the labor laws are very strict, they are very rigid. So we want to make the employer-employee relationship flexible, and by making it flexible, we'll attract investment. Investment is not coming. Why? Because investment is not coming because the labor laws are rigid, and the employers have to spend on wages, so they cannot remove the workers or retrench the workers whenever they want. So that is why investment is not coming. So what is the reality? Many studies have been there by ILO, by International World Economic Forum, and even IMF, etc. And they said that there is no relationship. The diluting the labor laws will not guarantee employment generation. So this is one of the arguments to influence the people, particularly the youth, that because the labor law, rigidity of the labor laws, investment is not coming. Because investment is not coming, there is no employment generation. So that is one of the reasons for increasing unemployment. So to address the situation, we want investment to come. So as I told already, that this is not the case. The several studies have proved that it is not supported by any fact that by diluting the labor laws you will get investment. Because in our country itself is an example where 93% of
We have been disconnected for a moment. There's a technical glitch. We are working on it. Hopefully, we'll be back in few minutes due to a network connection problem. We apologize for this technical glitch. She'll be joining us soon within a minute. Please bear with us. Um, till now, K. Hemalata has given us an insight into the migrant workers problem, and she has clearly, oh, she is with us right now. Yes. So she has joined us again, and we can continue now.
Okay, so the labor law amendments, the government, BJP government has decided to merge the 44 central labor laws in our country into 4 labor codes. One was the code on wages, one the code on industrial relations, the third one code on social security, and the fourth one is code on occupational health and safety. So these actually, the gist of these changes, these amendments, is to remove further the workers from the purview of the coverage of labor laws. So it is not to include more workers into the labor law coverage, but to remove whoever is already having. Particularly the code on wages, the trade union movement has been demanding that the criteria for fixing the minimum wages should be included in the wage. That should be defined. The wage should be defined according to the criterion which was adopted by the 15th Indian Labour Conference way back in 1957. But even after repeated demands, the government, even in this code on wages, where the minimum wages, then the Payment of Wages Act, Equal Remuneration Act, and the Bonus Act, etc., they have been merged. The government did not include that. In the rules they have included, but not in the wages. And that also is not very clear, whatever is included in the rules, and it is not judiciable. So that does not serve the purpose. And in the industrial relations code, which is a very dangerous one, if that is implemented, the workers will lose it will be very difficult for them to organize, to form trade unions, and it will be almost impossible for them to go on struggles, and particularly strikes. But all the strikes will automatically become illegal strikes. Once they serve the strike notice, they will become illegal strike, and they will not be able to elect their leaders according to their choice. So all these problems are there. So in one word, if we say, the trade workers will be pushed back into 19th century condition. Similarly, about the working conditions, the government wants to increase the number of working hours in a day. The working class, we all know, has fought and got the 8 hours, right to work for 8 hours in a day. But now that will be again taken back, and they will be compelled to work for 12 hours in a day. Similarly, whatever the welfare benefits that the workers are getting, for example, the BD workers, the building and other construction workers, and similarly other many sections of the workers, all those welfare fund acts will be abolished, maternity benefit, etc. All these will be merged into this social security code, but the government does not define what type of social security these workers will be getting. So in whatever the existing benefits and rights, they will be taken back, and workers will be pushed into conditions of slavery, similar to slavery. They will not have any right. And we all know the strength of the workers, to bargain with the employers, to protect themselves. It comes only from their unity, from their unions. Once the unions are not there, they will not be allowed to form unions of their own choice according to their own wish. Then and they will not be allowed to go on struggle. So that is the thing. So the entire purpose of these labor law changes is to increase the profits. As I told in the beginning itself, the ruling classes, the employers, they want to protect their profits and increase their profits by attacking the rights and benefits of the workers. This is not going only in our country. The entire capitalist system is in crisis, and similar attacks are going all over the world. We have seen the austerity measures, the increase in working conditions, the increasing in age of work, the reduction in the retirement benefits like pension, etc., in many European countries and others. Similarly, in our country also. Just 2 days back, the government has issued a notice, or rather reiterated the notice. Earlier it was there, but it was not implemented. But now they have again issued the notice with some modifications, saying that the employees, the government employees, they can be retired prematurely once they have attained 55 years of age or served for 30 years on some efficiency. Different words are there that they will be tested for their efficiency, their work will be renewed, etc., and they can be removed from their service. So all these things, already there is surveillance on the government employees. All sections of the workers are being attacked. And then the public sector also is being privatized. Our wealth of this country, public sector is not something which is related to only the workers. Generally, there is a tendency that the public sector is for the workers, and when there is some privatization is there, then it is for them to fight. But, and also the government is promoting that privatization will bring in efficiency, will bring in investment, and it can serve better. And by disinvestment and by selling of the public sector, we'll get some money, and that can be spent on social security, social welfare, etc. Where the government is spending social welfare, everything is being privatized. Now we have seen the impact of privatization of healthcare. Health is being privatized, education is privatized. The new economic policy recently introduced, it is for centralization, privatization, and commercialization of agriculture, and education. And similarly, the health, already the public, the government hospitals are being weakened. In many states, the primary health centers, they are being privatized. Private hospitals, corporate hospitals are being provided. And today what we see, if any corona patient is there, whether the private hospitals are accepting them, whether they were accepting them, they were not accepting them. Even the regular patients are not being served by the private hospitals because of their fear of getting the corona. So it is the public hospitals, the government hospitals, government doctors, government nurses, ashas, Anganwadi workers, all these are the people who have been serving, risking their own lives. They are working as frontline workers. So this the government wants to privatize and hand over to the private corporates, mainly big corporate hospitals, for their profits. Similarly, the railways, our defense system is being handed over. Almost our defense manufacturing production units, the ordnance factories, they are being corporatized, and then they will be handed over to the private players, private corporates, etc. in the name of efficiency. They are saying that we'll be able to produce, we'll be able to meet the targets. They have been doing that all these years. But despite that, the government is handing over even defense production to multinational corporations. 100% FDI has been permitted. Similarly, in railways also, 100% FDI is being permitted. Private trains will be run. Already some stations have been privatized, and the stations which have been handed over to the private corporates, now they are selling platform tickets for 50 rupees. And the railway fares will increase. Indian Railways is the backbone of our economy. It is not only the passenger benefits, not only the people who travel, they carry freight, they carry the food grains to serve the people, for the strengthening the PDS from one place to another. So it's actually the raw materials, the finished products. So it is a backbone of our economy. If that goes into the private hands, our entire economy will be going into their hands. So a government which is talking about patriotism, which is talking about nationalism, what actually they are doing is against the interest of the nation. So this is a challenge. All these are challenges before the working class. This handing over the public sector, handing over the natural resources, our mines. You know about the commercial, the act which has been passed, allowing commercial mining of our coal mines. The coal workers have gone on strike for 3 days. Again, they said that they will be going on strike when on the last day of the bidding process. So these struggles are all going on, and the government is doing all these things which is against the interest. Similarly, our agriculture is mainly based on small peasant agriculture. Now that will be converted into corporate agriculture. The land will be handed over to the corporates. Entire land, the stations, our railways have a lot of land, thousands and thousands of hectares of land. That will go into the private hand. They can construct malls, they can construct shopping complexes, they can construct anything, whatever they want. They can do real estate business with till now what was government land. They will take on lease and they can do that. So entire thing is being handed over, and we are going into a situation where before independence our forefathers have fought against the British. When they fought against the British, their vision was that our country will be self-reliant, our future generations will be, they will all have access to good education, to good health care, good jobs, good wages, decent working conditions, they can live with dignity. But today what is happening is all these things are being handed over again to the multinational corporations, foreign companies, etc. And our workers, our peasants are again being pushed into poverty. Poverty is increasing, unemployment is increasing. So these challenges are to be fought. What we believe in CITU is that these challenges has to be fought by uniting the all sections of the toiling people. We know the challenges, these are the challenges, but how do we address these challenges? It is not just saying that the government is doing that, government is doing that, what can we do? We can do if we are united. If the entire working people are united, the workers are united, the peasants are united, the other sections of the artisans are united, all sections of the people who are affected adversely by these policies are united, and together they fight against these policies, definitely we can overcome. The laws were not formed before the rights were there. The working class did not have any rights before. But through their unity, through their struggles, all these laws were enacted. They have forced the governments to enact the laws, and they have forced the governments to ensure the implementation of the laws. The right to strike. The Supreme Court has given a judgment that the employees do not have the right to strike. But after that, after 2003, there were so many strikes in which the employees also have participated, the workers have participated. So the workers, the people established their rights, they gain their rights, they assert their rights only through struggles, through united struggles. So that is the challenge today. That is the task today. And even that is why actually the government or the BJP and the RSS, the communal forces of different hues, it is not only the BJP and the RSS, whatever the communal forces, today the government which is supported, which is ruled by the BJP, supported by the RSS, they are playing a major role to divide the working class in the name of religion, in the name of caste, in the name of region, etc. They are trying to, by changing the education, by changing the education policy, by changing the syllabus, etc. From the beginning, from childhood, from the impressionable age, they want to teach the children unscientific things and create differences between the people and the toiling needs. So that way they want to disrupt the struggles. They want to divide by dividing the people. So this is another challenge. And we have to, what the CITU believes is that the entire trade union movement has to come together. The trade union movement, along with the workers, the peasants and agricultural workers working in the agriculture, they have to come together to challenge these policies. We have been trying for that, and the workers have also succeeded to some extent. As I told, the coal workers have gone on a magnificent, historic 3-day strike on 2nd, 3rd, 4th July against commercial mining. The Commercial Mining Act was passed in 2016, but till now the government was not able to hand over the mines, coal mines, for commercial mining. And even now the bidding process was called, but there were only, because of the strike and the struggles of the workers, not many bidders came. Those companies which came are Chinese companies, so the government is not willing to give them the hand over them the mines. So now it has postponed up to November or for 2 months. Again, the workers have said that we'll do this. And similarly, in many other areas also, even as I told you, in 1991, the attempts to change the labor laws have started. This is not the BJP government has not started them. The attempts to change the labor laws seriously started in 1991. Even before that also they were there. During the Janata government also they were there. Immediately after the emergency, the government which was formed, earlier also they were there. So the attacks on the workers, the hard-won rights of the workers have been there as part of the system. They have intensified with the neoliberal policies, and with this crisis, they have further, the BJP government is further aggressively pursuing these policies. But what we need to understand is that because of these struggles, till now, they have not been able to amend the labor laws till recently. Because there were so many strikes, All India general strikes, the entire trade union movement, including the trade union BMS, which is close to the BJP, and their followers, they were also part of the joint trade union movement. At some point, they're outside, but there is no difference on the need to protect the existing rights of the workers. The Charter of Demands on which the central trade unions are fighting is a common Charter of Demands which is accepted by all the central trade unions. So this is the only way to fight this, and we know there is history that when the workers are united and the workers are fighting, then definitely they will be able to overcome. So what I think is there are challenges, but there are also possibilities. We have seen, as our own example, we have, since the lockdown period, we have given several calls, starting from April 21st. We have given the call that Bhashan Nahi Ration Do, because there were only speeches. There were calls to ban the pots and the plates, but actually people were not getting even food. They were not getting even any cash transfer, any money. There was no money in their hands. So with that, the call started, and the last one was on 9th August, where the trade union movement on the one hand and the peasants movement on the other have given a call to save the country from these disastrous policies, from these policies of selling of the public sector and attacking the rights of the workers, and also the rights of the kisans, and killing the small trade peasants, etc. So that was the response. Around 20-30 lakhs of people have responded to that. So when we started, it was 4.5 lakhs, and now around 30 lakhs of people, particularly at the grassroots level in the villages, people are writing their own placards, and they are standing with the placards. Initially, they were inside the houses. Now they have stepped up, and on 9th, we have seen the police arrested, raised their demands, processions were held, dharnas were held, and again the trade union movement has decided to give a call to intensify the struggle till the government listens to them and reverses its policy. So that is the only way. And in addition to that, what is required is also to understand the link of the issues of the workers, issues of the people with the policies. It is not that privatization is an isolated incident, labor law amendments is an isolated issue, or the changes in the formulas is an isolated issue. All these things are part of the entire project of neoliberalism, which is meant to protect the profits of the employers. So unless the workers understand this as a comprehensive project and fight unitedly against this, it is difficult, but it is not impossible. It is with this understanding we have been working, and we are sure that with more and more young people coming into the movement, more and more young people and educated people understanding, because today we see the IT employees are also coming into the movement. Earlier they were thinking of themselves as professionals, not part of the employees or working class movement. But today, with the increasing retrenchment in the wage cuts, etc., they are organizing, and we have seen a very good response to the initiatives, and many people have been contacting the All India IT and ITS Employees Union also to address their problems in different states. So all these things indicate that on the one hand there are challenges, on the other hand there are possibilities. If we utilize the possibilities and the opportunities and to strengthen the movement, definitely in the coming days we can reverse these policies and achieve the vision of our forefathers who have fought for the independence of this country, to ensure access to education, access to healthcare, access to employment, and a dignified and decent living conditions to all our peoples. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your valuable insight. You just mentioned how you in the past few months you have called for various movements and for united struggles, and how a bright future for workers and lies in these movements. But in these special circumstances, have you faced with any challenges in organizing trade union movements, and do you think that there are certain changes which has become necessary for tackling the concerned issues which goes beyond the conventional trade unionism?
Challenges are there. Challenges are there for the trade union movement, not only during this lockdown period. Of course, during the lockdown period, the challenges have increased, particularly on the thinking process. You see, in the media, trade unions means collective strength, collective efforts. But today, under neoliberalism, what is being promoted is you address your own problem, you address, you are able, so individual achievements are given focus, and individual efforts are given credence instead of collective efforts, and collective efforts are derided, that trade unions are bad, trade unions are against development, such type of things are being propagated, which is a big challenge. So, uniting the working class itself is a challenge, but wherever we approach the workers, that is why we thought that approaching the workers at the grassroots level and explaining to them the link between their direct issue and the policies, that will help the workers realize, and wherever we are doing that, we are getting very good response.
These workers' struggles have always faced the problem of reaching to a wider public due to the scant media coverage. But however, this time it has been different. The image of trails of migrant workers trying to reach their homes has been etched in public memory. And how has this coverage facilitated in meeting the demands of the workers, or has it just led to the politicization of their issue?
See, it is, as I told, only the migrant workers' issues at that particular time were highlighted. As I told, all these movements that we have conducted, the entire trade union movement, is on the 9th August. The mainstream media did not cover. Whenever we have conducted since 1991, 19 All India General Strikes, increasing number of workers have been participating. When we started, it was in lakhs, and the last general strike of 8th January 2019, 2020 was participated by more than 15 crores workers from organized sector, from unorganized sector. Generally, the media talks that the trade unions are not addressing the problems of the unorganized sector workers. They are not addressing the problems of the migrant workers, etc. But not as definitely, trade unions have not done as much as they should do on the specific issues of migrant workers. But at the same time, the issue of minimum wages, as I told you, that we have been demanding minimum wages of in this year 21,000. Earlier we started with in 2009, when we started it was 10,000, then 15, then 18 and 20, and now 21. Why we have demanded 18,000 in 2016? Because the government has accepted the recommendation of the 7th Pay Commission of 18,000. So when the government has accepted this much is necessary for a family of 4 units to live, then it is applicable, it must be applicable to all. So even though the Central Government Employees Confederation, their organization said that this is not correct and minimum wages will come to more, we, the trade unions, have decided that okay, at least because the government has accepted that, we have demanded that. But even today the government is not giving that. So on that issue we have been continuously fighting. But those issues, even when lakhs of people are mobilized in Delhi near the parliament, not a word is written in the mainstream, either newspapers, print media, or in the visual media. So it is, we feel that it is also an approach because of the ownership. The big media, mainstream media, owned by the corporate houses, because the struggles is against their interests, they are not willing to focus. But in the social media and through individual contacts, that has received a wide circulation or wide coverage, and workers were inspired by that. In many places where we go, we feel that the workers are inspired and they remember that this is the struggle. Of course, during this lockdown period, we are not able to do that because of the restrictions. But even then, in the villages, people are coming together. If there is restriction of 10 people, recently in Kerala, when we called on August 9th program, there was restriction by High Court that not more than 10 people can participate, can assemble at one place. So they have organized in lakhs and lakhs of people, 1 lakh and around 85 or 89,000 places they have organized, where 5-10 people have gathered. So like that, this advantage, what we feel is that we have been able to take this struggle to the grassroots level. Till now, we were calling for mobilizations at the national capital, at the state capital, or the district capital. Because of the restrictions of transport and other corona-related, the lockdown-related restrictions, we are giving calls for mobilization at the village level, at the mohalla level, at the ward level, and more people are able to participate in that. So, how far we'll be able to, which we have to do, to strengthen such initiatives at the grassroots level, that will depend the our mobilization abilities in the coming days.
One sector of workers which has been severely hit due to the lockdown are the domestic workers. So, what proportion of migrant workers constitutes domestic workers, and how are their demands and problems being dealt with?
See, I cannot tell you the exact proportion because the number of migrant workers itself, there is no clarity. There are no concrete data, reliable data. because according to the Interstate Migrant Workers Act, the government has to register all the migrant workers, but that is not being done. That was not done. So different figures are coming. So out of that, what will be the proportion? Even on the domestic workers also, the data differs. Different data are there. Some say it is in 1 or 2 crores. Some say it is up to 10 crores. So it varies where. So what is the proportion of domestic workers in the total migrant workers? I cannot tell. But the domestic workers are one of the highly affected because of this lockdown, because of the restrictions. It is not only the migrant workers, but even those local workers, because of the restrictions, they lost work. Though the government has issued the circular that even when there is no work during the lockdown period, nobody should be retrenched and nobody's wages should be cut down. But that the government did not take any measure to implement it. And once it was challenged by the employers in the Supreme Court, the government within 54 days withdrew that circular also. So, how many domestic workers are organized? The strength of any worker for that matter is their union. And for the domestic workers, it is more challenging because the other sections of the workers, 10 workers or 5 workers or hundreds and thousands of workers work for one employer. But here, one domestic worker works for 10 employers. So, bargaining with each, she has to bargain with each of them because of lack of organizational strength. And today, very few domestic workers are organized. We have, at least from the CITU, we have expressed our concern. We have issued a circular to all our unions that wherever the unions are there, they have to talk to the employers. And second point is, many of the employees and workers are themselves employers of the domestic workers. In the middle class, whether it is a bank, insurance, or IT, or any other employees, they are employees, they have organized strength, they are fighting with their employees on their rights, and they are getting their wages because of their organized strength. Even during the lockdown period, they got their wages. But did they pay their domestic workers the wages? According to our reports, many of them did not pay. So we said that as employers, wherever the CITU members are there, you pay the domestic workers. How far it is implemented, I also cannot say because it is not so easy to monitor. Whereas we have lakhs of members, how many of them paid the domestic workers, that we cannot say. But at least we have tried. Wherever our committees are there, we told them that you please ensure, and it was done also in some places. But it is a very challenging situation for domestic workers.
Concerns and try to contribute, it would help them. That how can the students and the youth contribute to the trade union movement aimed at countering the draconian measures of the government?
What I think is today, some studies also show that contrary to the general perception that students are not willing to understand what is going around them, or the students and youth are very much concerned about their own career development, self-centered, etc. They are showing much interest in what is going around them, whether they are participating actively or they are supporting passively, whatever it is, but they are showing concern because in around the world and in our country also, we find that large number of youth are participating in movements. Even when we see these, whether it is automobile sector, IT sector, organized private organized sector, large number of young people are there, and they are all coming from fresh from their student days, or they are all young people. So what we think is that when they become workers, of course, they will know about their problems, rights directly, and then they will struggle. But even as youth, even as students, before they get the employment, for example, today one serious situation is the unemployment, which the students in their future and also the young today are encountering. Particularly, unemployment is more among the highly qualified and educated sections. They're not getting that type of employment. So they have to understand what is the reason for the unemployment. The government is trying to say that the rigid labor laws are preventing investment, so that is why there is no employment. If the youth understands that why really is there no investment, is it because of the labor law rigidities or because people don't have the money to buy? If the people don't have the money to buy, who will produce? The corporates or the companies or the capitalists, they will get their profits only once they sell their products. So if they are unable to sell, they will not produce, and that will in turn they will not invest. And with these policies, when there is retrenchment, when the wages are being brought down, then naturally the purchasing power will come down, and with the lower purchasing power there will be no investment, and that is the what we need to understand. And if the youth and as educated sections, as young people with lot of energy and enthusiasm, if they really understand the problems, the link up between the issues and the policies being pursued by whatever government is there, if they understand that, then they will be able to spread that information, actively support, actively campaign for alternative policies. And I think that will be a very big contribution of students and youth.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable time. We really appreciate you joining us today, and uh, we and we also thank everybody who has joined us today with for the session. And we really apologize for the glitches that came in between. Thank you again, ma'am. It was absolute delight to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.